All right, we're good. It's on.
Okay. Hi, my name's Nicole Huff. I'm going to be doing the introduction for Arab culture. All right.
Hang on, I'm trying to figure out where the slide won't advance. Oh, there it goes.
All right. Ships docked with cargo would cross the Arabian Sea from India with goods because of this location. Saudi Arabia's trade routes were highly traveled, quickly becoming the link between civilizations. This allowed people to move into uninhabited areas along the routes. Priority trade items have become cultural tradition as dates used in many recipes. Saudi Arabia is the main oil or petroleum producer and exporter, which has been crucial for the development of the economy. The kingdom was originally dependent upon trade revenue and farm production for income. Since the investments have been made into building the city by adding pipelines, shipping facilities, export plants, and production facilities, Saudi Arabia has been labeled as one of the fastest developing countries in the world. All right, Islam translates to peace, specifically the peace one receives when surrendering to God. Islam is a monotheistic religion. God in Arabic is pronounced Allah. The holy book is the Quran. Quran translated outside of Arabic is not officially accepted. Due to misconceptions and language barriers, overall concepts could be lost. All right, the 5 pillars of faith. The 5 pillars are held to the same standards as the 10 Commandments within Christianity. These should be withheld and met within a Muslim's lifetime. The first pillar begins with the acceptance of Islam as their faith. This is done within a verbal recital of the Shahada, meaning there is no God but God and Muhammad as his prophet. Pillar number 2 is prayer. Prayer should be done 5 times a day facing Mecca. Mecca is due north from Springfield. Praying does not need to be performed in a mosque, but it should be done bowing and kneeling to the ground or on a prayer mat. You should touch your head to the you should touch your forehead to the ground as respect for Allah. The next pillar is tithing or giving alms, which helps purify your wealth from greed or lust. The mosque will distribute the money or collected from alms paid to less fortunate attendees. Ramadan occurs in the 9th month, as stated in the Quran. Muslims are expected to abstain from sexual activities and fast from dusk to sunset. The last pillar is the Hajj, which is the pilgrimage to Mecca. The pilgrimage begins in the 12th month. Mecca welcomes 2 million Muslims annually during Mecca. Muslims are expected to make the travel to Mecca if they can afford it once in their lifetime. Mecca is revered as the holiest city, the birthplace of Muhammad, which is the prophet and founder of Islam. Inside Mecca is the Kaaba, a large black stone commonly wrapped in silk. It is the holiest shrine in Islam. Muslims walk around the Kaaba 7 times while praying to conclude the pilgrimage. All right. Men and women are both held to standards to protect dignity and discourage lust. In most traditional settings, women may need to be covered fully besides the hands and the face, while in Western location, a mid-sleeved and knee-length dress would be acceptable. Wearing a veil symbolized devotion to Allah while being a personal choice of expression. In more traditional settings, it is custom to veil whenever the possibility of being viewed by a man they could theoretically marry. This would include a man outside of the family regardless of their marital status. While in the company of an immediate family, the veil was not needed. Failure to veil would bring great dishonor to the family. It's gonna be you.
So, my name's not, sorry, trying to see what the icon was. I'm literally covering the 5 healthcare facts. So let me move my. Oh, nope, go back. I gotta move the wheel here so I can see my slide. Put that over there. Oh, no, okay. Put it down there. All right. So as we know, studies have shown Islam is the primary religion practiced within Arabic cultures. Arabic cultures are like Somalia, Saudi Arabia, um, Iran, Iraq, the surrounding areas. Typically, you're going to find them to practice Islam. Many Arab Americans that are here in the U.S. that are still Arab practice Islam. That's why we have mosques stateside. It is very reserving and modest in the way that people dress and present themselves. You may find that your patient won't look you in the eye. It's not because they don't like you or they hate you. It's because it's a sign of respect in their culture. You have to be careful if it's a female patient that's admitted to the ER, the ED, wherever you are, and you have an Arab patient that's wearing a head covering. I don't remember exactly what that is called. I don't know if it may be a burqa, but you need to try and provide as much privacy and respect as possible, whether that be knocking on the door before you enter the room, which should always be done, with some special considerations to let them place that covering on, cover themselves respectfully, whatever you want to do. They find that very sacred, and it's kind of dehumanizing when you get admitted to a hospital because they strip you of your clothes. They give you a gown, it doesn't have a back on it. They're cold, it's not comfy. So you need to respect the patient's privacy as much as possible. One of your biggest concerns, especially with sexual health, is that they're very modest and they're very private about what goes on in their home life. It's really truly against their belief to talk about their sexual relations, their partners, past partners, this, that, and where. They don't really like that. And this can inhibit your assessment because, they don't want to talk about it. You can't exactly sit there and pry. So you might have to rely on other sources, whether that be like lab values, diagnostic screenings, CTs, X-rays, any sort of that. Okay, let's advance to the next one, which is a continuation. Another big part of the aspect is in their religion, virginity is sacred. So if a young female that is so not all Arabs are Muslims, and not all Muslims are Arabs. But typically, you're going to find that most people in the Arab culture are Muslims that practice Islam. And Islam states that, if you're a, young female and you're not a virgin, you can kind of be viewed as like a monster, dirty, unholy, and it can really hinder finding a marital partner or a life partner. So a lot of times you'll find that if a young Arab woman is presented to the ER with it may not even be for, bringing up my timer here, any sort of, sexual reproduction issue, they're not going to want a procedure that involves assessment or even, the inspection of their private areas in fear of losing that sacred virginity in the hospital. This just kind of talks more about what we've already covered. Oftentimes, a Arab female will ask for a female nurse, or if it's a male, they'll ask for a male nurse. Sometimes they'll ask for a person of color, that same culture, to be a nurse. And if you don't have one of those on the floor, you got to do your job and you got to kind of work around it. We've covered the lab values and diagnostic tests. You can kind of get around that. Dietary needs play a huge role in healing, whether that be from a cut, a broken leg, pneumonia, anything. This talks about if your patient is admitted anywhere between April 11th and the middle of May, this is kind of like a scenario, critical thinking type deal. Ramadan starts April 11th. They run off their own calendar. Ramadan, as covered before, is a traditional fasting from sunrise to sunset of food and drink and sexual activities. typically your patient will want to partake in Ramadan if their health allows for it. If their health doesn't allow for it, don't let them do it. Just as if you had a Jewish client during Hanukkah, they're going to want to try and keep as much of that culture alive in the hospital because, again, the hospital is kind of a scary place for a lot of people. They want to keep their spirits up. Fasting does cause alterations in the normal body's functioning. So if your patient if they're a diabetic, you need to tell them if they wait so long and their blood glucose drops below, your range and they become hypovolemic or hypoglycemic, my bad, you need to break that fast. All right. Because at that point it is dangerous to their health. It's the same thing with, It's the same thing with if you have the IV bag, technically that does break fast as it is taking in fluids, just it's not by mouth, right? So you need to instruct them that if they're becoming dehydrated, if they're hypovolemic, if anything that impedes their health during this fast, it needs to end, right? Because at that point it's a danger to themselves. But other than that, if they want to partake in it, let them partake. There's also some special considerations. They do practice I guess you would call it like a halal type of lifestyle, where they will not eat like pork, for example. That is a non-halal food. Certain animal fats are non-halal. They don't want alcohol. That's against their religion. So they'll genuinely try to avoid medications with alcohol or animal fats within them. Just be kind of wary. Talk to the nutritionist or the dietitian, whoever's on staff, and the cafeteria to just try to make their stay as comfortable as possible and keep up with like halal considerations for them. A lot of Arab countries practice a lot of like self-healing. They're typically third world countries. They're not super advanced. They're typically poverty stricken, except for Saudi Arabia, one of the fastest growing countries in the world. Oftentimes they are war torn and they do not have access to healthcare. And usually it is like world superpowers like the US, Canada, the United Nations that are providing those teams and non-for-profits to come in and do healthcare. So a lot of them practice like herbal medication. That's an old one. Like home remedy. Like here in the US, we have home remedies. So out there, they're going to do the same thing, just with what they have. Many rely on self-healing meditation and prayer. That's a big one. Like Nicole said, they make the annual trip if they can. They need to pray every day. You need to be trying, as long as it is not hurting them or contradicting anything with their diagnosis, allowing them to pray, encouraging it. You as a nurse may not be religious yourself. You may be Christian, you may be Jewish, you may be atheist. It doesn't matter. Just stepping in to help that patient pray or offer your help or comfort really helps a patient feel better about themselves, especially if you can just step in for a little prayer, provide them as much as you can. Obviously there's some things that have limitations and you can't provide them. Incense would be one of them, like tobacco, it's just common sense. There are a lot of medicinal practices that go on in Arab cultures. As with any country that is not well adapted in the healthcare world, they're going to figure out ways to heal themselves. And a lot of countries use herbs. And even in the US, many normal people, not necessarily Arab Americans or Arabs in a whole, use like medicinal supplements like turmeric or curcumin. And you need to be aware of that, because if they're taking an herbal supplement and they don't tell you during your assessment, that could have a drug interaction. There's not a whole lot of those herbal supplements that will have a reaction with an antibiotic. It's a very slim chance, but you never know. And it's best to err on the safe side of caution that you figure out if they're taking any herbal supplements so you can kind of keep them from being hurt. Many modern Arab Americans do not have an issue with modern pharmaceuticals, so long as they're, the non-halal animal fats or products are not in there, and they don't contain alcohol. They're also not a super big fan of narcotics and opioids, but they will take them. You need to be wary of, again, the Ramadan ordeal. They won't take medication from mouth. They'll want to be personally NPO because they don't want to eat or drink. That'll break their fast unless they can swallow the pill orally without anything to help. You will see that black seed or black seed oil is a common one used in Arab cultures because it's commonly found in that geographical region. Not a whole lot is known about black seed oil and its interactions to drugs. There's no occurrences. You might be aware with like hypertension and anticoagulation meds, but commonly they use it for like respiratory issues, toothaches, headaches, topicals, whatever they can do to help relieve pain, they're going to try and do. Tobacco usage is very common among these cultures and in that region of the world, not necessarily the Arab culture itself. It's just big in that region. It's up to about 50% of youth that live in that region have smoked cigarettes in their lifetime. Nicotine usage is high, tobacco usage is high, mainly because that's pretty well where tobacco stemmed from, was that region of the world. Big thing is water pipe tobaccos. Most households will have a hookah. That's what's over there on the right. It uses sort of like water as a giant bubbler system, kind of like filtrate the tobacco. It adds like a nice smoothness. Pop culture and movies portray Arab countries as really heavy tobacco consumers through cigarettes or tobacco pipes such as that. There is no, like, in the United States, there was always the campaigns that said, vaping is better than smoking because it doesn't have all the carcinogens like tar, formaldehyde, all that. It's essentially the same thing. You're still getting your nicotine. You're still, damaging your lungs. It's just a different delivery method. It all poses all the same risks: COPD, respiratory infections, lung issues, cancers, reduced lung capacity, you struggle breathing. You need to inform them that the water pipe tobacco usage is really just as harmful as any other way you do it, because it doesn't remove the nicotine itself. You're still getting it. That's why you're doing it, right? Provide smoking cessation information to your client, help them curb, because that is a rapidly growing percentage of youth using the hookah or just smoking in general. So just try to be wary, keep on your feet, aware of your surroundings. Mental illness, there's a major stigma against Arab Americans in the United States, especially after 9/11. A lot of them are discriminated against. Many would say they are one of the least liked populations because of what happened on 9/11, but you can't stereotype, right? Online surveys have found Arab depression rates in young adults are anywhere from 14 to 50%. They meet the criteria to be medically diagnosed as depressed. So just inform them that they're human, just like you are. There's nothing wrong with them because they're a different color than you. Do expect internalization and minimization of feelings and signs and symptoms, because they do believe that, if you have a mental illness, like, there's something wrong with you. You're not normal, So they try to internalize that to just protect themselves in the long run. And I'm going to hand it over to Brooke. There's my mute video.
Hello, my name is Brooke Hall, and I'm going to be talking about language augmentative communication device. The augmentative communication device is easy for any age, as you can see in this picture. My 3-year-old son uses it, and he's very capable of doing it. It can customize to your own needs. Next slide. Our slide messed up a little bit. The Arab cultural usually understands our English speaking. A lot of them do.
I got the picture up. We're good.
Okay. Okay. A lot of the Arab cultural usually understands our English speaking language, but use nonverbal communication. Many of our English spoken words originated from Arabic. The Arab cultural stems from the function of a language as a social lubricant aimed at promoting social harmony, where Americans use open communication. The augmentative device gives full vocabulary files. It is lightweight for easy mobile and easy access. And I actually have one here that we could have used if we were together to demonstrate how easy it is and being able to, he wants more, be able to talk about that more. Along with Hunter, awareness of cultural differences can help us deal more effectively in developing written and oral communication. So the more we know about their background, I think the better it will help us as nurses.
All right, you're up. Can you hear us?
Oh, yes, I can hear you. I'm sorry.
We are
Hi,
at 21
Gina.
minutes. We still have plenty of time, so go ahead.
What? Okay.
We're at 21 minutes. We have plenty of time. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Gina. Gina Kumnog, and I am going to be discussing food. Okay. I can't see my picture. Okay. So I'm going to be talking about food, and the questions that I have is when, where. Hold on. Let me see the slides.
I got them up if you want to look at your phone. I'm sharing my screen with you.
I see it. I see it now.
All
Okay,
right.
so I'm gonna go ahead and start. So I'm Gina again. I'm gonna be talking about food. And it's food of the Ramadan. It's when, and I'm gonna talk about when, what, and who, and where to eat. So basically, Ramadan is. Hold on. Sorry. Can't move the mic. Okay, so Ramadan is the 9th month in the Islamic calendar. That's where they go ahead and observe, the Muslims go ahead and they don't eat until like sunrise to sunset. They eat different kinds of food. They mostly drink water for the fasting time. They can drink water throughout the day, but they can't have anything that has nutrition and stuff like that. They don't eat that. The meals are served during Ruha and the Suro and Iftar, and Suro is in the morning, in the beginning, where they can eat, and they can eat stuff that's not against their custom. All the foods are like Allah or Halal, and Halal means the food that they are allowed to eat, a food that's allowed. Okay, what do they eat? They would eat like fresh fruit, vegetables, breads, and then most of their meals, or most of the time when they have meals, they do it in around a big area, where they cook outside and everybody joins in. So they have like one pot that everybody eats out of, which is different from from Americans, where we all would gather our plate, everyone would gather their plate, their spoon, and stuff like that. But their custom is to eat together. And that's the time when they spend most of the time together, where they can, talk about what's going on and just the basic stuffs about life, like we all do. It's their bonding time.
I just gotta say something there, because talk about eating out of one big bowl. Us Americans, if you're like me, I do not like my food touching, so I cannot imagine having to do that. I just want to throw that in there.
I have my food touching. It has to be spread out on a plate.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Gina. Sorry.
It's okay. So they do. So what that you know how we usually have like for breakfast we probably have milk and cereal. Well, milk is scarce there, so they really don't use milk. What they use is they use like yogurt, and they would use like cream and butter. That's what they use for like they wouldn't put it in cereal, but that's what they usually eat instead of milk. Milk is scarce there. Um, They also, and then for breakfast, they commonly have like yogurt, and they put like, for the taste of the yogurt, instead of us, they do put strawberries, but mostly it's dates, because that is like one of their favorite meals is dates and stuff. And also when they go to the market, I found this out. They don't like go to the grocery store most of the time to buy their food. Most of their food is from the market, and they have like butchers there that they cook the butchers that butcher the stuff that they do eat. They butcher it there, like the meat. They also eat chicken. That's the most popular thing that they would eat. So of course they would have a chicken butchered there, and they also eat pigeon. So chicken/pigeon, they eat that also. The Islamic diet, when it comes to pork, is not eaten. Like they do not anything, they don't eat pork, which is like sausage or anything that comes from the pig or the swine. They do not eat it. Also because they like to have their food sweetened. They use dates, and they rarely use fruit or something. Fruit. They use dates. They use dates, and they're not allowed to have wine, as Hunter was saying. So for what they would drink would be mostly like water. They don't really drink carbonated drinks. So they're mostly like water, juices, anything that's non-carbonated. As I was saying about the food again, generally they don't sweeten their food. Most of their food, if it is sweetened, it'll come from nuts and dates. And also if the dates which are dried so during Ramadan they actually have like certain things that they are allowed to eat. So what I picked was, which is very easy, not easy to make, but easy to get the ingredients. I picked the fulafa, and that basically is, and I put the ingredients on here for you guys so you can see the ingredients. Go ahead and look. So this is what they commonly eat. So when they make the falafa, which is it's not made with meat, it's made with chickpeas, and like mostly like chickpeas and stuff like that is not meat. They usually have like a sauce that they make to go with it, but it's very convenient for them to make because it's easy to warm up, and it's not hard most of the time, and it's healthy. So most of the time, like Hunter was saying, if you don't know if it's gonna affect their diet, whatever, it is healthy. I just listed the ingredients here so you kind of know what they eat. Okay,
I got for you. Do you have any other big sticklers? Because we're about to run out of time. We got to roll this one. So
okay, almost done. So
all
then
right.
I have interesting nutritional facts. Like I said, milk is scarce. They buy their food from the market. The chicken is most popular. Wine's prohibited, and the sweets are commonly flavored with nuts, and rarely is fruit done. I'm gonna be followed by Brooke. I'm gonna be followed by Nicole, and she's
I was going to say I can cover it too. It don't matter. As healthcare providers, it's your responsibility to know different backgrounds and be aware of other people's cultures. Not everybody's the same. Just try your best to respect that and do as much as you can to make those people comfortable in the hospital, because nobody likes being in the hospital. It's cold, food's not the greatest, they're in a strange place. Just try your best and be kind to one another, as Ellen DeGeneres would say. I think she's the one. But I think that wraps up our presentation with a good 30 seconds to spare. We ran 29 seconds and 0.21 seconds. So we're going to go ahead and exit this out. I guess I can stop it.